where brevity is paramount.
Hello, welcome to episode 45 of Chet and John's Reassuringly Finite Gaming Playlist. It's 2013. My name's John Denton. With me, as always, Chet Roivas.
Wapnin.
So we've been going nearly a year now, so you must know the deal. 2 top 10 lists going from 10 to 1, going back and forth of the games we played the most this week. 10 being the least, 1 being the most. We'll kick things off with Chet's number 10.
Okay, my number 10 is a game called Hi-Fellow Musician on the iOS. I've got it on the iPhone. I don't know how I found it. I don't know how it was on my phone. I don't even remember downloading it. I can't remember where I've heard about it or got it from. It just appeared on my phone.
It would be good if you didn't even download it and it just came.
It might. I mean, I signed up to all those free app a day things, but they don't auto download stuff. But maybe I saw it and I thought, I'll have a look at it. Whatever. It's terrible. It's an incredibly simple game where you play a musician, and you have to tap the screen when another musician walks in front of you. There's a busy street in front of you, and it's all these sort of stick men walking past you. If they're a hater, in inverted commas, wearing suits or holding guns, you die. And you start all over again. It's a
Classic haters.
I mean, it's a load of crap. But if you read the blurb, it's actually made as part of a game jam where they make a game in like 48 hours.
Okay.
And on that score, it's really really impressive. But it's like when we used to make short films and then upload them to sites that hosted work of amateur filmmakers. We just get shot down. It was like we're just having a laugh. And these people, they were doing a bit more than having a laugh. And it is impressive for what they did in 48 hours. But I don't really want to play it. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. It's rubbish if you go to it. I'd show it to my friends and family if I created it, but that's about it.
Okay. Did it cost anything? Oh, you don't know.
I have no idea. I better not have done. I'll tell you that.
It's like $9.99.
Yeah.
That'd be clean. My number 10 is ZombiU. I'm finding it really hard to get back into ZombiU. Not because of anything the game's done. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through it, but it's such an ordeal playing that game that I just can't find myself having the motivation to stick it on. And I did. I put it on and I was just like, do you know what? I haven't got the fucking temerity for this now. And, played it for 10 minutes to show it off to family member over Christmas. And then, I haven't put it on since. And like I said, I really like the game and I do want to get through to the end of it, but it's just stress. So when you're tired and you want a bit of fun gaming time, it's not fun.
So are you actually not going to go back to it now?
No. I'm going to finish it. I will do. I just need to find the motivation to actually do it. But thankfully, I know it's only a few hours or so until the end, so I will get there.
Yeah, that's a shame. I'll speak about it again because I've played it some more as well, so I'll speak about it in a bit. My number 9 is Sonic Jump on iOS. It was part of the Apple's 12 Days of Christmas where they give away a freebie every day. Oh, yeah. Sonic Jump. Did you not download it?
I didn't actually sign up for that this year.
Oh, okay. There wasn't a lot of brilliant stuff, but Sonic Jump is okay. It's a fine game, but it's a rip-off of one of the. This is the thing that really struck me about it. It's a blatant rip-off of a really seminal and really popular iOS game from a few years ago, where you shoot something up and then you bounce and you basically can't touch the ground, and you use the gyroscope to tilt. It was really big, probably about a year ago.
Jump?
Was it Doodle Jump? You're going up the screen and you bounce.
Just bouncing the whole time.
That's okay, and that's the original.
Yeah, that's what it was called. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's what because it's identical to it, and I have played other games that are identical to it also, and I just thought that when something's successful on iOS, the rip-offs come so thick and fast that I couldn't remember the title of that game. I know I played it and liked it, but it's just a shame that the originators of these ideas are just so swamped with imitators that they might not get their due. We all know what Jungle Run is today, but in a year's time, we might be going, oh yeah, Pitfall, broke the rules. But it's fine. It's perfectly fine. There's loads of achievement-style things on there, so you can keep track of all stuff you've done. It's a very polished game, but yeah, like I said, it's been done many times before.
Okay, you meant Temple Run, didn't you? Not Jungle Run.
What is it? Jungle Run? Oh, Temple Run. Yeah, see, I've forgotten the fucking title already.
There you go.
Terrible.
I think Jungle Run's the Rayman one, isn't it?
Jungle.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Run. Yes.
I don't know.
Jungle Dash. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, that sounds a bit shit, but
it's good. It's good, but shit. But why would if you've played one, you've played all of them. So who cares?
My number 9 is Frog Fractions, a game that I'd heard a shitload about over the last few months. Have you heard people banging on about this game?
Definitely heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Flash game, web browser game, and it's kind of a parody. It starts off in any way as a parody of old like educational games. You know, the type that we'd have to play in school for some reason on BBC Micros and things like that when we were about 6. Did you ever play anything like that when you were a kid?
No, it sounds like something I might have done, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot you can't remember anything ever. But it starts off like that, and then it goes really, really fucking weird, changes genre. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It just goes really utterly batshit mental. Eventually, it becomes a text adventure, which is a shame because I was loving it until that point, but I hate text adventures to the core of my being. I don't ever want to play a text adventure. To me, they're just banging your head against a wall. Trying to work out what the hell the developer's thinking, and so I gave up. So there's probably some more awesome stuff after that, but people should still check it out because people who aren't as anti-text adventure as me, which is almost everyone, I'm sure, won't be so bothered by that. But I can't hack them.
It's free, right?
Oh yeah, it's in a browser. I mean, it only took me about 10 minutes to get to that point as well, and it's everything that happened up to there. It's just so weird, and it's just actually just thinking about some of it's just making me laugh now. It's just one of those things that everybody should play.
Oh wow, okay, all right.
Even though for me, I got pissed off with it, I don't think many other people would.
Do you know how far through the game that is? Is the rest of it text adventure and that's?
I don't know what happens after that, but I'd imagine. The rest of it's not text adventure, no, because just by what happens, and it only took me 10 minutes to get there. Like I say, maybe 12, but nothing, no time at all, really.
Okay, all right. I won't say I'll look into it because I'll forget, but maybe I will one day.
Yeah.
My number 8 is Rocketgirl on the Xbox 360. I found the cover art. The cover art's. I mean, how best to just? Well, it's a woman with huge breasts wearing a bikini that's too small, gripping what looks like a massive crayon and looking at the camera in inverted commas with her mouth agape, suggestive. I mean, it's just it's
classy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact polar opposite of classy. But I downloaded it and I tried the trial, and it's a really. It basically wants to be a bullet hell shooter, so it's chaos on screen. It's so chaotic on the screen that you often can't see where your avatar is. But you're basically a woman in a bikini on surfing around on a giant. It's supposed to be a rocket. It's called Rocketgirl. I don't know why I said it was a crayon. It animated to look like a crayon, and all you do is press A and you sort of go up, and then you drop down, and then. Go, there's a word for that and I've forgotten what it was, but that's all it is, and you're just avoiding mines that are flying through the air, and then there'll be girls surfing on multicoloured baking trays shooting you with guns, and then there'll just be chaos. There'll be fire and clouds and shit, and then there'll be pole dancers flying around. It's completely, if you imagine watching the beginning of a James Bond film on acid, it would still not look as mental as this does. And there are moments where I thought, there is a certain kind of person that would sort of pontificate about what this looks like and stuff, because it doesn't, I've never seen anything like it. But it's cynical and sleazy, and the game's not much fun, and it's basically crap, albeit quite interesting crap.
Crayon Girl.
But it does look like a crayon the whole time. I don't know why I didn't, only literally just now, when I told you what she was flying on, did I realise that the title was called Rocket Girl?
Maybe it is a crayon.
A crown?
No, a crayon.
A crayon, yeah. I think it's a crayon.
My number 8 is Need for Speed Most Wanted. I finished off the top 10 Most Wanted cars, the main single player component of the game. Yeah. I planned to do it over Christmas and did. Didn't take me too long. I was almost there anyway. The final cars are a joy to drive, and it does open out the game to become like a competitive asynchronous game, as it is all the way up, but then once everybody's kind of on a level playing field with the cars, you can have a lot of fun trying to beat their times over different sections and things like that. But at the same time, I was a little bit disappointed that the final 2 cars didn't have any new events of their own. They were just rehashes of events you've already done 2 to 3 times over different cars, so that was a bit disappointing. But it's still an amazing game. I've played it on all the different versions, hours and hours and hours of it. I could pick little faults here and there, but I mean, I've played the fucking thing for hours, so it would be pointless. I've had so much fun with it. I think I'm probably done, although I will jump on for a bit of multi if people are doing it. But a treat. It was a Christmas treat.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about it a bit in a minute. Not for very long because we've discussed it at length already. But yeah, I've played it a lot as well.
Cool.
Okay, my number 7 is a game called Word Winder on the iOS.
Word wanker.
Word Winder. Did it? I didn't sound like wanker, did it?
It kind of glitched a little bit on my Skype.
Okay, no, Word Winder. And it's... Weirdly, a friend got in touch out of the blue and said, can you download Word Winder? It's created by a relative of mine, my uncle. And I was like, okay, I downloaded it. And then he texted me back the next day. He goes, oh, mistake, sorry, it's not my uncle. So I've now got this game on my phone that I played it. And at first it was too simple. It's a word search game. And it's very, very straightforward. But, initially I turned it off and I didn't bother thinking about it again. And then I just was on a train and I thought, I'll have a look. And I got completely hooked on it. It's literally a word search, but there's always a proviso. So you have to, each word has to start at the top and end at the bottom, and then sometimes they say name only countries from top to bottom, or sometimes they'll do a small word search and every letter of the words you use have to touch all 4 corners of the grid. It's actually it's incredibly simple, but incredibly, I thought it was very entertaining. That's about it. If you like word searches, it's great. And the game itself is free, but there's not many puzzles, and then you download puzzle packs. But if you like, I think it's, if you like that sort of thing, it's a very good, albeit very, very straightforward and no frills version of it. Yeah, not bad.
That sounds all right. There's so many of those types of games out at the moment now, aren't there? Just drowning in them.
I know, it doesn't break them up. I mean, that's the thing. At first I was like, this is just too simple. This is just a word search. But when they throw in those little things that you have to adhere to, it's actually pretty good. It's surprisingly good. It's free. If you like word games on the iPhone, then download the trial.
There's a free trial, is it?
Yeah, the first sort of third of the game's free, and then the rest is like packs that you can buy for 6 to 9p or whatever.
Real talk. My number 7 is Asura's Wrath, the story DLC. And I finally remembered to play it. I've had it for months. And yes, it's brilliant. Obviously, there's some of the craziest shit that is in the whole game is in this DLC. People have complained that it should have been in the main game anyway, but it didn't. I think it was only 400 points or something like that to get the extra pack. And the main game was great on its own. But if you've done the main game and you haven't done the DLC, you are massively missing out. There's still some absolute gleam in there, some amazing fights. The best QTE of all time, which is then immediately replaced by the best QTE of all time. So, they smash all other QTEs. And Asura's Wrath held all those records anyway, so it was just smashing its own record. And then I immediately went and bought the Asura versus Ryu DLC and then forgot I had it until about 35 seconds ago. So after this podcast I'm going to play that and see what that's all about. Awesome game, limited in so many ways, not actually that much gameplay in there, but I'd recommend it to everyone really. We talked about it loads.
How long is it?
The DLC?
Yeah.
Probably, it's 4 chapters I think. It probably took about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's proper, chunky story chapters. Some great moments.
Yeah, okay, well, I am going to look into that at some point. I definitely will. It's still on my shelf. Okay, my number 6 is Batman Arkham City Armoured Edition on the Nintendo Wii U. I've spoken about it already. I thought months ago that it was going to be a disaster. It isn't. It's a very, very good port. It's not as good, or despite having everything that the Game of the Year editions have on the other formats, there are frame rate problems. They're not as prevalent as... They're not massively detrimental because most of them are in the cutscenes. But as you progress through the game and the battles get bigger, they do stutter a bit. And when you're flying over Gotham, it's it does struggle a little bit. It's not. I don't want to. A lot of people have sort of said that this is a really sloppy port, and it really isn't, because the amount of effort they've gone to with the gamepad, implementing the gamepad and stuff. And I did a little video on our YouTube channel, which you can check out if you're interested in the Armoured Edition at all, where I compared it to the other versions. And the way that they use the gamepad, actually, it feels like a device rather than just a gamepad. So there's an extra level of sort of immersion there, I think. Mm-hmm. They did go the extra mile with it, but there's problems with the frame rate that may sort of wind people up. So if someone said, which should I get? And of course, the other version's half price.
Of course.
But if you haven't played Arkham City, then you have to get it. It's an excellent port with a couple of problems. That's it.
So I've still got the 360 version, and I like the idea of being able to play it. Play it on the pad, and then and do it again with these new features. But at the same time, I've got to be realistic, and I just don't have time, I don't think. But if you are interested in watching Chet's video, which is a great little video, we're going to be doing a lot more YouTube content. Just search his name, Chet Roivas, on YouTube, and you'll find our channel. There's going to be a ton of stuff, a lot of stuff about Wii U ports and loads of other videos. We'll talk about that in the future. Okay, my number 6 is a game called Kentucky Route Zero, which is one of the nominees for the IGF Award this year. They came out, day of recording, I think it was yesterday, if we're recording on a Wednesday. And some familiar titles in there, and then this game that I'd never heard of, and it happened to come out that day as well. It's an episodic adventure, I guess you'd call it, like almost a point-and-click adventure. Very, very, very stylish, done in 2D, kind of like... Actually, it's made with 3D graphics, but it's kind of that 2D... Almost looks like, you remember Another World?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so like that, but stylized in its own way. But ultimately, I found it really unfulfilling. There's no real gameplay, so to speak, and there's no puzzles, there's no choices really. There are dialogue choices, but it's weird. You're a man called Carver, and you appear. The game starts at a gas station. You start having conversation, and everything's a little bit weird, a little bit off. The easy thing to point to is Lynch, but it's not. It doesn't feel that Lynchian, but they're definitely fans of his work. But what's quite interesting is you have conversations with people, but unlike, say, a Mass Effect or a Walking Dead, where the stuff you're saying is like directly impacts gameplay, this is more like you're making up answers, and it's almost like you're telling the story yourself, so you can choose the story. But it's kind of a cool idea, but it doesn't really serve any purpose, I don't think, and it doesn't seem to affect anything. The whole thing lasted about an hour. It features a lot of walking with nothing happening. One very long section where you're basically just moving a cart while you're with another person on board, where nothing happens, and it really smacked of style over substance for me. And I personally can't see how it's been nominated for this prestigious award when stuff like Thomas Was Alone, didn't make it.
Oh wow.
This just, it really smoked to that type of game that a lot of chin strokers would be very very pleased by, but there's not much there. It is episodic. This was only episode 1. It ended very, very abruptly before the story in question, which is about this Kentucky Route Zero. It is like an underground highway in Kentucky where loads of weird stuff happens. That's what the game's about. But none of that really comes into the first episode. So it costs like £4, I think, per episode, which isn't insignificant for what you're getting. And I was a bit disappointed, to be honest.
Considering it came out on the day those nominations were announced, how long before does he make it available for judges? How does that work?
It was available for judges quite a long time before, I think.
And then, but has he tinkered with it since it's gone released to the general public? That's the other thing. Maybe it's changed somewhat.
No, I don't think so. I can see why certain types of people would like it, and there are other games not like this, but there are other games with no gameplay, so to speak, that people have kind of fawned over, and it is extremely stylish. It looks so cool. I wanted to love it. When I put it on, I was like, man, this looks fucking wicked. But after about half an hour, I was just like, there's nothing here, man. And I don't think it's particularly well written. It's very intriguing. I kind of like to know what happens, but I don't feel like I need to play it. And after coming off something like 30 Flights of Loving, which was all about jump cuts and all about, cutting out the shit, basically, this is like only the shit and none of the action. So not for me.
How much was it?
I think it was $5, so whatever that translates to.
Okay. Yeah, sounds interesting, I suppose. I'd like to have a look at it. I need to have... I don't have a PC that I can play games on, really. So
played it on a Mac, so it's on Mac as well.
Oh wow, okay, all right. Well, I might have a look at it just because it's anything like that's worth a look.
Yeah, I imagine the whole thing's on YouTube by now as well. So,
would you recommend doing that?
To be honest, no, almost any other time I would say no, but I can't see. Well, apart from the fact you choose your own dialogue, yeah, no, you're better to play it. You're better to play it.
Okay.
I know there's plenty of people that love it though.
Yeah, no, I mean that's why. I mean anything that's divisive, I'm interested in it automatically. So that sounds well. Okay, I say I'll make a note of it. I won't.
Oh no.
Okay, my number 5 is ZombiU. The only reason I played it again is because a friend came round who I was basically he's planning to buy a Wii U and he wanted me to sort of showcase it for him. He's our mutual friend Fraser, who, as you know, when he gets anything in his head, whether it's anything he gets in his head, anything he's passionate about, whether it's something that annoys you, he just repeats it. That's what he does. Anything that interests him, he repeats it. And he became completely and utterly flabbergasted because for him, I can't. Who gave ZombiU the really lousy review? Was it IGN or GameSpot?
Maybe GameSpot.
Okay, whoever gave him that review, he thinks is the Bible. Whenever he rings up, he's like, "Oh yeah, they gave it so and so." And I'm like, "Whatever, don't fucking ask me then if you think they're the Bible." But he was just all night. That's all I had. I mean, we played ZombiU. We started it fresh, and we played it until the fully charged gamepad died, and then we took a break, and then we did it for another charge, and then the next day we played it for another. So we played it. I don't want to say 12 hours, but it was something. It was a long time because we were so gripped by it. But every 2 seconds in my ear, why did he fucking give this? You know, he was just so. He was furious. I was like, people have different opinions, Fraser. For fuck's sake, shut up. But he was so angry. He was like, why are these people reviewing games for a living? I was like, but I mean, you know, you can't diss someone else's opinion. But there are playing ZombiU even now. I'm just like, I don't see how you can sort of. There's so much that it does right, and whether you don't think this system works for you or what, to not admire what it's achieved is. Yeah, it's a real shame. I wonder if that person regrets because there's one of the a lot of games get slated that are good, and a lot of the time you can understand it. ZombiU is one of the few where I don't. It's like Syndicate. I still don't really understand how people could slate it. But yeah, we've spoken about it at length. It was great fun. We were completely gripped and immersed in it. We played it at night. And the second part during the day. I love the grubby visuals. I love the way it looks. I love the way it plays. It's just it's the unpredictability of it. The amount of times we thought we were so safe, and then one zombie finishes it all. It's a great game. Really great.
Yeah, it is a great game. It is a great game. I'm glad that our mutual friend, did enjoy it as well. Yeah, I've been baffled by that review constantly. Like you say, different opinions, absolutely, and all for that. And love it when games are divisive, just like we were talking about before with Kentucky. But yeah, sometimes, and I have been guilty of this myself, definitely over my career, is going in with expectations, thinking that it's going to be something that it's not getting it, not having the time. You know, other factors like being on deadline, being knackered. These things do unfortunately sometimes play a part in the review process, and. I totally agree with you, but that's a strange case. That one. It is a strange case. It is a strange one because it's not like it ever really purports to be anything. It's not. It certainly wasn't marketed as anything that it's not. So I felt like I knew what I was getting going in, and I hadn't played anything pre-release.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. You can't. And maybe you just fucking didn't like it, and fair play to the guy.
Yeah, exactly right. But anyway, I've just sold that. Fraser's getting a Wii U 100% now. After that.
It's the place to be, along with lots of other places. But back on Wii U, for my number 5 is Ninja Gaiden, Razor's Edge on Wii U. I had no intention of ever playing Ninja Gaiden 3, even though that you like it. But then I was asked to review Razor's Edge for Video Gamer Reviews up there now, I believe. And so I did, and they made quite a few quite a few changes since Ninja Gaiden 3, haven't they? They've upped the difficulty, taken out a lot of the QTE stuff. They put all the weapons, which I think were downloadable eventually, in the game, so you can now upgrade your weapons like you could in the older games, and tried to get it back to what Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2, specifically 1, were like. Put in limb rending as well. But I think the fundamental issues with Ninja Gaiden 3's design mean that it can never live up to what the first two games are. Mainly, there's way too many enemies, so you can't really fucking see what you're doing. and you're constantly getting spammed by people with rocket launchers from higher ground, and the bosses are so hard, not in a fun way at all. I love a good, really tricky boss where you have to be on fucking point the whole time to get it. That's one of the best things in action gaming. I love it. This isn't that. They're just cheap motherfuckers that can smash your health bar in a second, and it's way harder than the rest of the game. So you can be getting through the normal fights. Okay, you have to be on point, and they're not as good as the previous two games, but they're good. And then you come to a boss and you're like, this is just crap. There's no fun here. So I ended up having to whack them down to the easy mode. And then the second that you go back into the main game on easy, it's just piddle. So you have to whack it back up. The whole thing was just, it doesn't look very nice on Wii U. It doesn't look as nice as Ninja Gaiden 3 did on 360 and PS3. The gamepad stuff's irrelevant. You can zap it to the pad, but it's too dark. It's all right. It's better than 3, I think, for what... Do you know what I mean by that? For what people want Ninja Gaiden to be, this is more what Ninja Gaiden should be. But
yeah.
You can't just sort of... It feels like they've just kind of bandaged it up a little bit, stuck a couple of elastoplasts on it, and given it a haircut when it needed to be some sort of complicated analogy that I can't think of.
Yeah, see, I mean, I as I've said many times, I like Ninja Gaiden 3. I've got the Wii U version here, and I have heard, but yeah, like you said, most of the changes have sort of made it a bit more difficult. But yeah, I'll have a look next week. I thought it was fine to begin with, but it wasn't a Ninja Gaiden game. That was the thing. It wasn't. I can understand totally 100% why people got so upset, but. This might even, as someone who liked it, this might break it again. Some people say this is definitely the preferable version. I'm sure that won't be the case. People have said that, though, haven't they? I mean, people have said that, by and large, if you're a Ninja Gaiden fan and you want to play Ninja Gaiden 3, the Wii U one is the one to go with, isn't it?
Get the impression, because it came out at launch in the US and there's people who are extremely busy, that they might not have played that much of it. Because as you get further into it, it's actually not... It's not designed well enough. To be, it feels when you first go in, you go, okay, this is like the first two games. I'm standing there blocking, dodge, slash. I've done this all before. You have to be concentration. Concentration levels need to be high. Reactions need to be good. But those first two games, especially the first one, was really meticulously designed for only having a few enemies on screen, and the combat was so tight. And this is like. It's like Pretend to the Throne, and when you've got other games, one of which we'll probably talk about later, in this genre flying about at the moment, it doesn't really cut the mustard.
Okay, I'm interested to see what I think, because
sure.
I didn't agree with anyone, but yeah, I'll talk about it next week, almost certainly. Okay, my number 4 is Assassin's Creed 3. I not played the multiplayer. I'm just playing the single player again. I didn't intend to, but I ended up starting it again, and it's still a game that I find amazing. It's even if you never even played it, did you, at all?
No.
It's a funny case, because I think it's it made my top 20 for the games of the year, and playing through it again, I just thought it should have probably been higher, just because I admire so much of what it did. I've spoken about it loads. The naval combat is still the most breathtaking gaming experience I had of last year, and doing loads more naval missions this time, totally enforces that. The dialogue at some points that I missed before was really, really strong. There's a great bit where you kill this guy and he sort of talks about how you initially you're at each other's throats, and then he just says, circumstances are everything. If you were me, we'd all be doing the same thing. There's no point in... It's smarter than you'd think.
Right.
And it's one thing I did... I said when I reviewed it that it was quite scrappy. But not as much as everyone else did, and I can see why, having done some more of the side missions, because the side missions are scrappy as fuck. They make it feel like a broken game at points, and totally anti-immersive. If you want to believe that you are that character in that place, there's these side missions where you liberate either Boston or New York or both. And they're tiny things, like you beat up some guys who are overlooking some kids so they can nick some food, or you go and guard a guy while he harvests his crops before the soldiers come and beat him up. But you have to do each one 3 times, and every time you go to a different location, it's the same NPC, exactly the same dialogue, and it's the same scenario almost exactly. So you just feel like it feels like a game rather than... it's the gamiest part of the whole experience. So... Yeah, it's just like menial. I mean, the tasks are menial anyway, but the fact that it's you just going and seeing the same guy saying, "Oh, my family," and like I just had this conversation with the guy on the other side of the planet. What's the point? But despite that, I still think it's great. And there's moments in it again that surprised me. That there's a bit in the plot which I won't give away too much. But your mentor, your father figure as such, basically abandons you. He may come back, he may not. I won't spoil that. But after that bit, you're forced to traipse through snow in these mountains for about 10 minutes, and it really makes you feel like you're out on your own. You know, I felt like I was playing Metroid or Dark Souls or something. Like you feel like you're completely isolated, and that's a really nice touch. And some people may have thought, I know they did think, why is it making me just fucking walk for fucking 10 minutes? Whereas I thought it was a flourish designed to sort of accentuate the story. So things like that I think are wonderful. But yeah, I love that game. I really do love it, and I'm going to finish it.
So if I was to play it, would you recommend doing the mainline story and the naval missions and kind of sacking everything else off?
Yeah, I'd ignore all of that other stuff. The naval missions are a must, and yeah, you'll probably get fed up with the campaign, to be honest, because it is slow and it is deliberate and it is all about the story. But yeah, don't get locked into... you also have to chase these flying pages of a book around, and that's just fuck. I don't know how anyone has the patience to do that.
Smash my teeth into a wall.
Yeah, same here. All that stuff. Ignore the side stuff. Yeah, if you do ever play it, for sure.
I have been tempted to get it on Wii U if I see it cheap one day, just to have it on the pad and whatnot.
Yeah.
You have made it sound interesting every time you've spoken about it.
I love it.
We shall see. It is a big game and time is limited.
True that.
A game that I'm very happy I got back into, though, is my number 4. It's XCOM. I've written a list of the stuff that I need to get through desperately. Need for Speed was top of it. Cross that off, and XCOM was next. I played the hell out of it over Christmas. Haven't quite finished the campaign. Don't know if I will, in fact, because I think, I'm not doing brilliantly, so things might fall apart and the aliens might win, which is kind of terrifying. But an absolutely magnificent game. I'm so happy that I went back to it, because it was definitely one of those ones where other stuff that was a bit more immediate seemed more appealing to stick on. But I was like, no, I'll do it. But straight away, I was straight back in and loving it. And I need to tell a story of my soldier, George Costanza, who basically was living up to his name amazingly. I stuck a hat on him, and then in my mind, he was George Costanza. In the first mission, he nearly died. In the second mission, he nearly died, so he hid at the back of the map behind a bus stop while everyone else went and did the jobs, and he just hid there the whole time. Third mission, he nearly died and hid again, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can take George out anymore. He's that shit. And then a bit later on in the game, you get the chance to see if soldiers have the gift for psionic powers. So I thought, for a laugh, I'll stick Georgie Boy in, and by some sort of miracle, he was my only soldier ever who has the gift. So now it's all about the rise of George Costanza. He is now my number 1 soldier. He's got these amazing mind control powers. He's an amazing sniper. And XCOM it's the rise. It's the rise of George.
Can you mod that game on the PC? I know some games. I know nothing about modding. I know nothing about PCs, more or less. But can you mod that game on PC?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Because that would be awesome if you could just have snippets of George Costanza dialogue every time you did something.
That'd be gleaming.
That would. I mean, I think I'd play that game forever if you could just change the voices of the characters you had. That would be superb.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure some people have. Yeah.
That'd be great.
But he is George Costanza in my mind, though. There's no doubt he is George.
I'd like to hear the banter when they're en route to those battles. That's funny you say that, because a friend of ours, Tom, he's just got XCOM, and he won't come and play Battlefield with me because he's just like, I'm playing this and I'm not getting off it ever. And seeing that a couple of publications gave it their game, quite a few actually said it was the game of last year. I'm exactly the same as you. I remember how in love with it I was, but other stuff came along, I didn't have the time. But yeah, I will go back to it as well for definite.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, my number 3 is Need for Speed Most Wanted. I won't speak much about it. We've done it to death. I still think it's It unquestionably one of my top games of last year, and I'm going to be playing it for the best part of this year at least. I did like you. I finished the last 2 cars, and I've started doing it again on a few other cars. I never thought I'd play it that much. There's an achievement for completing it with every or complete all of the primary races with every car in the game, which is hundreds of cars. But I mean, I did half of that while I was waiting for other people to join multiplayer, so it might yet happen. And I love it. I love it so much. I don't think I mentioned before. We might have spoken about it, but the pointless stylistic movies that play before the Most Wanted races and some of the primary races as well, they're brilliant.
Yeah, they're very good.
They're completely. Idiotic in some cases, but they look incredible, and they do give it. They do make it feel like its own thing. We've spoken about it to death. It's fucking absolutely superb. I love it.
Yeah, indeed, and I will be up for some multiplayer, I'm sure.
All right.
Yeah. Wicked. My number 3 is F.T.L. F.T.L is another IGF nominee, and quite rightly so. I've pretty much given up hope. I talked about F.T.L a few episodes back, just before Christmas, probably November time. Played it for a bit. It was too hard. Didn't get it. It was like, I don't think this is for me. But classic indie game. I don't have the patience. Too hard. That sort of thing. It was like, no, I don't get it. For some reason, I decided to boot it back up again over Christmas and realised that it's, one, turned down too easy when you're learning how to play the game, and 2, it's actually way, way less complicated than I thought it was. So F.T.L is a game where you basically, it's a Captain Kirk simulator, basically. So you're the commander of this spaceship. The whole thing is basically 2D top-down plan view of a spaceship, and you have a map where you can jump between points like star groups on the map, basically, while you're being chased by a rebel fleet. So every time you move, the rebel fleet move towards where you are. So you have to get to the next sector, and then eventually try and get to the end because you're trying to get some data to the Federation or some shit. That doesn't matter. But every time you play it, it's different. So they call them roguelikes, don't they? I don't like using that word because, 1, I don't know what rogue is, and 2, it's a stupid word. So, it's one of those games that is different every time, randomly generated, whatever. It's fucking brilliant. It's a brilliant, brilliant game. If I'd played this before we did our Games of the Year lists, this would be high up in my Games of the Year list, in the top 5, I would have thought.
Fuck.
It is a superb game. It's kind of funny in a weird sort of way. It's constantly stressful in a really exciting way. It's basically a nice mix between real-time and turn-based strategy. Everything happens in real time, but you can pause it and then command your little things to happen. So, classic example, you jump to a place, you get attacked by an enemy ship, you have to have a fight, so you hit pause. You're going to go, right, I need to take some power down from my shields, put that on weapons, and I'm going to move one of my crew members to the weapons base, so you get a little buff on your weapons power-ups. Aim your weapons, you can see their ship at the other right-hand side of the screen. You go, right, I'm going to aim at their shields, take down their shields or their oxygen bay, and then boom, and things start happening. And then shit, your ship might catch on fire, or they might board your ship, and suddenly you have to react to that. And it's just constantly exciting. It sounds complicated, but literally, as complicated as I've made it sound, that is as complicated as it gets. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. It's not a hardcore strategy game with loads and loads of things that you need to learn. It's just simply, you keep playing it, you fuck up loads of times. Every time you do is a learning experience, and then eventually you start to really get into the flow. And the whole game probably takes about 2 hours to get from beginning to end. I've still not finished it, because the final boss is incredibly hard, deliberately so. But every single time you play it is a completely different story. You get attachments to your crew members like you do in XCOM. It's a fucking masterpiece.
Jesus Christ. Did you play that on a Mac or a PC?
I've got it on my Mac, yeah.
Fuck, how much was it?
So good. I think, unfortunately, in the Steam sale, it was down to about £3. I think I paid £6. But, it's not much.
It's just resource management, though, isn't it?
No, nothing. No, not really. No. No, it's more like combat, turn-based strategy combat, and then when you do get to kill the bad guys and you get scrap, so you do use that scrap to upgrade your ship and stuff like that. But no, I wouldn't say it's resource management. No, it's more leveling up a ship, and then you can unlock different ships which do completely different things. And oh man, such a great game.
Wow. I need to. Okay, I need to really get more on the ball with this, because automatically when I hear that something's sort of a downloadable PC game or it's on Steam or anything like that, I just kind of shut down, because I imagine it's.
I was like until I downloaded Thomas last year, and that completely opened my mind to how accessible some of these games are. I'd always assumed that they were kind of the esoteric PC crowd, super nerdy is definitely the wrong word, because who the fuck am I to say anything? But complicated in a way that my dumbass console brain could never understand. But they're really not. Some are, but these aren't. This isn't a complicated game at all. It's way less complicated than Advance Wars.
What? Seriously?
Yeah. It seems complicated because it's new, and it doesn't really feel like anything else. But certainly, if you were to play it with me for 5 minutes, you go, okay, I get everything in this game.
And if I didn't play it with you?
It'd probably take you half an hour.
Harsh. All right. Well, that's. I don't know. When you finish talking about a game that I know I want to play but never will, I don't know what to say. We always say
it's tough. It's tough. I mean, but you might not play it, but hopefully some people out there will get involved with F.T.L.
Yeah, for sure.
It's game. You never know. It might appear on the consoles next year. I wouldn't be surprised. It's done very well, and a rightful nomination for the IGF.
Okay. All right. Very interesting sounding game, that. Okay, my number 2 is Battlefield 3. If ever there was a game that's been spoken about enough, it's Battlefield 3. I saw a mate of mine for the first time in a couple of months, and I went to the pub with him, and he sat me down. He said, "Why?" He listened to the Games of the Year podcast. He's like, "Why wasn't Battlefield number 1?" I was just like, "Well, it came out last year, Dick. I mean, it came out in 2011." But we talked about it anyway. But whatever. The point is that if it didn't, if a best of the year was based on games regardless of when they came out, that would be my number 1.
Right.
And having played it in the aftermath of Aftermath coming out, the love's back, and we're all just like madly in love with it. Aftermath is the best pack they've brought out, as we said. We even have gone back to Armoured Kill, which I think is brilliant, and it alienated a lot of people, but it's because it forces you to work as a team, but you can't be a small team, because there has to be a certain number of you dealing with that fecking gunship, and then a certain number of you dealing with the other vehicles on the ground. Which, if there's 4 of you playing, it can get irritating, and there's some of our friends have stopped playing it altogether because, they just find that it's not Battlefield, but it is Battlefield, but you have to strategise so intensely based around that fucking gunship. But we went back and we rather enjoyed it. But yeah, Aftermath, best maps. We've been playing some old maps as well. God damn it, Battlefield 3. Can't beat it.
Battlefield 3, yeah.
Can't beat it.
I'm pretty much done, but a lot of love still. Yeah, I can't play the same game forever.
Yeah, you can. Bored. You can.
No, not when I've got my number 2, my new boy, The Binding of Isaac. Steam sale. This is the first Steam sale that I've ever really been involved with. My Mac isn't powerful enough to play big-ass games, but it's plenty powerful enough to play most indie games. And The Binding of Isaac appeared for 99p. So I was like, I've heard of this game. I will buy it for 99p. And I've played it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours over the last few weeks. Do you know what it is?
I've heard so much about it, and I know nothing about it. No.
So I'll break it down real simple. It's a cross between Smash TV and old school top-down Zelda, filtered through the mind of the man who made Super Meat Boy, the artist and designer of Super Meat Boy, Edmund McMillan. It's him and a programmer who made this game. Like F.T.L, it is a roguelike. I don't know what that means. It's randomly generated. So every time you go in, you play as this baby called Isaac. It's like a retelling of Isaac being killed by, I'm going to say, Abraham in the Bible. When God tells... Yeah. But it's like a fat mum who's watches daytime TV. That stuff fundamentally doesn't matter, but it adds loads and loads of cool layers on top later. But the main thing is the game's really, really fucking fun. Plays this baby Isaac. He kills things by blinking tears. You can shoot in 4 directions. The game starts where he drops into a room. There can be 1, 2, 3, or 4 exits to that room because it's randomly generated. Every time you go into a new room, you don't know what's going to be in there. Almost definitely it's going to be enemies. It might be some treasure. Might be some shit. It's a weird game. and you have to kill the enemies in the room. And the idea is each floor, there's I think 7 floors. Each floor has a boss and a treasure room. And when you go and get the treasure, you get a power-up, and there's got to be about 150 different power-ups. They're all really, really cool. Some of them utterly bizarre, like a third eye that goes in the back of your head, your mum's bra. Like, it makes it sound... I don't know. You know how cool Super Meat Boy is?
Yeah.
And how like smart that guy is and what a good artist he is. It's that level of skill. So when I explain it, it sounds... crass, and it is, but it's done with a real artist's eye and a sort of wicked black sense of humour. All the power-ups physically affect your little Isaac character, so you end up, as you get further and further and the game gets harder and harder, you end up with a little character who's completely different to every other time you play it. So, you know, you might have found a crown of thorns and you've got laser eyes and fucking steroids. It's so much fun. Out of all the games like this that I've ever talked to you about, this is the one that I know you'd love, because it's a complete action game. There's no stats, there's none of that stuff. It's just an action game, a twin stick shooter fundamentally. But the brilliant news is, I know you'll play this one because it's coming out on Xbox Live Arcade next year. It's a complete remake. He's redoing all the graphics. He's adding like twice as much content, loads of new random shit, and it's such a brilliant game. It is a brilliant, brilliant game. It got 9 out of 10 on Eurogamer, like Gameological Society are banging on about it. 9 out of 10 all over the place. Absolutely agree with those scores.
I was literally just about to ask you, it sounds like a console game. Why isn't it on consoles?
Because it was made in Flash originally.
So when you say next year, I assume you mean this year?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 2013.
Do you know how long?
It's going to be middle of the year, but I reckon it will come in the summer of Arcade.
Okay. Yeah, because that's a game that I've heard a lot about, and it's always amongst PC gaming crowds. So I thought it was going to be something that worked best on the PC, but that sounds like totally a console. That would work totally.
Yeah, I mean, there's no native joypad support on the Mac and PC. You have to go use some workaround, and I couldn't get it to work. So I've just been using WASD and the arrow keys, which isn't ideal. When it gets really hard, I know I could get further if I had a pad, and I'm looking forward. There's DLC and stuff. I'm not going to download any of that. I'm going to wait to get the console version, because I'll play it again, because it's different every time. You never know what you're going to see, and you see some weird shit, some properly weird shit, like 1 in a million. You'll never see it again. Weird shit all the time. You just can't stop yourself from playing it over and over again.
Wow. But because I play games on a Mac primarily, you know, when everyone's talking about a Steam sale, are the same prices on the Mac as well, or does it cross over like that, or is it a completely different setup?
No, it's completely the same. Not every game comes
Mac
out
compatible, yeah.
But it's really easy to tell what it is, because it's just got a Mac, like an Apple next to it, have a little Windows icon and an Apple. Most seem to be Mac compatible these days. So yeah, the Steam sale was great, man. I bought a bunch of other crap as well for fuck all. I must have spent a total of about a tenner and got about 6 games. 2 of which have been absolutely brilliant.
Fuck. Okay. Yeah, that's something I've been meaning to look into for a while. And I'm going to do that now.
But when this game comes out, I know you'll play it when it comes out on Xbox, and it's so good.
The way when you described it, as you described how it works and what it actually is, it reminds me of the XBLA game, the Xbox Live indie game that I played a few weeks ago, Die Hard Dungeon, which is a little bit of Gauntlet, a little bit of old school. Zelda, and it just every time you play it, it's different. So there'd probably be a lot of similarity there. That didn't grab me, but then this sounds like more of a shooter, right? Are you shooting?
It's a shooter. It is a shooter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Completely.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I assume then that our number ones are exactly the same.
I think they are.
What's yours?
Oh, DMC, Devil May Cry.
Done.
Do you want to go first?
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so technically, I haven't played this much this week, but I smashed a review. It's going to be in Play magazine, and you can check that out. I smashed a review a few weeks ago, so I played it for so long that it would... whatever, doesn't matter. What have I written in my notes? The game is electric. The combat is amazing. The pace is incredible. But the thing that excites me most about this Ninja Theory reboot of the Devil May Cry series is that basically there are no fucking rules. They established this world almost immediately called Limbo, which is like an alternative version of Earth, basically, where the demons realm, and that just allows them to do whatever the fuck they want. And that reminds me that video game designers are not really constrained by anything apart from the technology they're dealing with, but artistically they're constrained by nothing. You know, way less constraints than a movie director, for example, especially in the pre-CG age. And it does that by creating worlds that just, you know, pull themselves apart and put themselves back together in a completely different order by worlds where you can run on a ceiling or fucking crazy shit. I don't want to spoil too much of it. None of this would matter if the fundamental DMC combat wasn't as good as it is, and it is fantastic, in my opinion, and I'm not the hardcore Devil May Cry player, so I will admit that if you're the type of guy that's double S ranked all of the 4 mainline games or whatever, and you know the intricacies of those systems, you know, I'm not going to argue with you because your level of understanding is higher than mine. But to the above layman, the guy that's played all of the games to death, is of a decent standard. This is up there, if not better than the other ones, in my opinion. People who are worried about Enslaved's combat not translating, Ninja Theory not being good at combat, whatever. This is the game that Ninja Theory was born to make. They've been trying to rip off Devil May Cry effectively with their previous 2 games in terms of the combat, especially with Heavenly Sword. They don't have to anymore. They don't have to like do it, but a bit differently. They're just able to do what they want, but add their own flair on top of it. The game gets me pumped. I was so blown away by it, to be honest, dude. I was blown away by DMC. I don't know what you think. I'm excited to hear.
Well, I mean, first of all, whenever there's any kind of internet furore, any kind of discussion that people are getting angry about, I stay the fuck away from it. But people are angry about this. What is this whole thing about DMC? Why are people pissed off?
They're furious, and I've been into over the last couple of days. I've been into a few comment threads and forum threads just to check it out. They're furious about the fact that he's a differently designed Dante. You know, he doesn't have the white hair. He's younger. He's more of a Western design, even though Dante was a white male.
Yeah.
He was of a Japanese design ethos. Because they've not played the game, and you know, this is what these people are like. Sometimes they've completely failed to understand that A, that doesn't matter. And B, what they've actually done is, in my opinion, better than what's come before it anyway. It's an origin story, basically. The game's an origin story. It's classic superhero style. You know, the script's supervised by Alex Garland, and, you know, the guy's had some misses in his career, but he's pretty fucking good. And that's why the pace is so good. The acting is of a very high standard. The cutscenes are fantastic. And the whole thing's just put together with a real verve, which Ninja Theory have been brilliant at in their previous 2 games as well. And I think I tweeted this the other day. I bet 3/4 of the people who are bitching and going, fuck Ninja Theory and all this stuff about the changes they've made to their precious DMC, with the same idiots that were saying, oh, Enslaved, what a tragedy that it didn't sell, you know, we need more games like this. I bet they're the same fucking people. So people to be ignored and pushed to the side until they learn to grow up a little bit. Hopefully it won't affect the game sales, but I want to know what you think of the game.
Well, where to begin? I don't know. Well, first of all, with regards to all that, I thought people were upset from the whispers that I heard. I thought they were upset because they'd made Dante too emo, and that he was like, they didn't like the fact that he was young and
yes,
yeah, and that's really weird because most of the people that are dissing him are young, and they're absolute dicks. So what would they be like if they were this fucking this basically god? They'd be a bit of a dick as well. And actually, that's something I think the game gets very right, because Dante's incredibly likable, despite being a right. I mean, he's a dickhead. Yeah. He is a dick, and he's got a fondness for the worst jokes ever. I mean, I love the game for this. The gags are terrible. Bad puns, bad. I mean, just bad jokes. There's one boss battle where the final 30 seconds of it are like just non-stop terrible jokes, and I love that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I played the demo. I thought it was incredible, and this lives up to it, and then some. And I'm with you. I think the one game, despite the amount of games that have ripped off Devil May Cry, this felt like the original. It felt like a natural sequel to the original, but I think I prefer it. It's And again, like you were saying, it just the lack of restrictions. You know, there was a time, especially during the PS2 era, where game developers didn't care. They could do anything, and they were intent to do anything. And over recent years, because of the success of sort of slightly more conservative games, you've seen less of that. Yeah. And there's parts of this. Well, I mean, there's genuinely grotesque stuff in this. Like properly, like if you saw it in any other medium, if you saw a painting, if you saw it in a film, you'd be like, wow. A demented mind came up with that, but fair play to them, it looks incredible. But also just visually, it's as out there during certain bits as stuff like Shadows of the Damned, El Shaddai, completely incredible to look at. But that, you know, all that stuff would be for nothing if the combat wasn't incredible, and it is absolutely incredible. And it's just, I wouldn't say. I probably wouldn't recommend this to someone who's not a bit of a hardcore gamer, because the amount of buttons that you are forced to use and the different combinations of buttons that you're forced to use is you know, it's off. I can't compare it to anything, because you every single button on the pad in conjunction with another you do at some point.
Yes, you do, and totally agree with you. It sets up the difficulties nicely as well, because the hard mode is called Nephilim, but it does that thing which Halo does, which tells you this is the way we want you to play the game, basically. So, and it's a really nicely pitched difficulty level. I think it's hard, but not to the point of being stupid. It's not unfair. It's just it's the test that it should be. I actually did a large amount of the review on normal mode, because I didn't actually read that. I just, you know, that's what you do when you review a game. You jump into normal mode, which is also a fine difficulty level. It's not hard at all, but it's still very enjoyable. You know, I couldn't by any stretch of the imagination just push buttons and win. I still had to play properly. But playing again on Nephilim, and I actually played again a large chunk of it on the incredibly difficult Son of Sparta mode, which is fucking amazing. The replay values through the fucking roof once you've got all the unlocks and all the different weapons and all the different combos and stuff like that. And the game actually encourages you to replay it, because there's loads of areas you can't get to first time through as well.
No, that's what I really like about it, because if you are buying this just to play it through once, it's significant. It's like 10-12 hours, I reckon, around about, and it's non-stop. You know, there's no dead weight in there at all.
No,
that's it. The thing about it doesn't take you around the houses. The problem with most action games nowadays is that their artists build an environment, so they have to. You know, you end up getting into 10, 15 battles in it just because they need to sort of, you know, it just doesn't stop moving. Yeah. And also, if you think that you can grind your way to an A or an S or a double S rank in one battle, you have to be very careful, because the battles are actually quite short. So if you get knocked once and you lose your score, you probably won't get it back again. But then you're on to the next one, and it does not stop moving. It's relentless. That's one thing I really admired about it, because I've played a lot of games recently, even very good ones, where you just think, oh, come on. I mean, but the way that this is pitched, you're constantly progressing through the narrative, through the environment. It's constantly different, and it doesn't stop moving. But like you say, it's made to be played more than once.
Yes. And on a slight tangent, but on something you just said, Ninja Theory, I kind of think like a benchmark level when it comes to the smoothness between cutscene and action for editing, which so many games fuck up. Like, you'll have a great cutscene, and then it'll cut to the action, and you'll have the guy will just, all his animation will disappear, and he'll just turn into a static thing, and you're like, do it, I'm out. Whereas that would never happen in this game. They're committed to making it seamless. And then on top of all that, the music is just fucking superb. The first tune that hits when the first fight is just like this pounding, it's by Noisia, and it's just this pounding like bass, basically. Like it's being like torn. I played it super loud on good headphones, just like tearing through your head as you play. It just gets you pumped up. They know how to use music, superb. And I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody who's not played it. That'd be terrible. But have you got to the club level?
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to single out moments that I thought. I mean, I did finish it just about 2 hours ago.
Right.
I'd like to single moments out. But I don't think I can. There are. I mean, the nightclub bit was great. The bit sort of that was part of the TV where you're. Oh. I mean, incredible. And those are things that I haven't seen in a while. There are. I mean, the last time I'd say I've seen a game as just completely brazenly wacky as this was probably Shadows of the Damned, I think, or El Shaddai, whichever came most recently. But yeah, it's it feels completely free of all the shackles that it's I think pound for pound it's the best game that Capcom have made since the first Street Fighter 4. I think extraordinarily highly of it, and that's why this whole thing about the controversy doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, in terms of singling out moments, I don't think. I mean, the boss battle with the lead bad guy's girlfriend, there were bits of that where I was like, that's disgusting. And I don't think that ever. I watch all sorts of the worst, sleaziest trash horror movies you can think, and I never sit back and go, that's really grim. But that's to their credit. I think that's quite something, and the fact that they felt the ability to do something like that was really impressive. But the combat is just beautiful, and the fact that it does feel like Devil May Cry. There's slight things that they've kept. There's always that slightly rigid double jump that Dante always had, where the second jump was always you felt kind of restricted by that. That's there. But I absolutely adore it. I don't know what more to say about it, because I just think if you have ever had any kind of affection for a game like this or an earlier Devil May Cry game, it's just tremendous. And the more I think about it, the more I think, I'm going to play through it again at least once more, at least. And is it the best Devil May Cry ever? Probably. I think it probably is.
I think it probably is, because it gets rid of a lot of the. When you think back at the old Devil May Cries, you have all these amazing memories of the fights, but there's a lot of shit in those games. You're kind of wandering around looking for things.
Yeah, exactly. All of that's cut. That's what I love. It just doesn't stop moving. That's why.
Yeah, there's platformy bits in this one, but they're done really, really well using the same stuff that you use in combat. They're never awkward or annoying. They always have something really cool to look at, or a cool destination to get to, or something cool's happening in a story. I could rave about it all day. Capcom needed this as well, because they had a rough last year. And I just hope that the idiots don't kill it. I don't think they will. I think the brand is strong enough, and I think the reviews will be so good that it will do very well, especially with nothing else out and people excited about a new game come New Year. But man, you honestly, I went to the NeoGAF thread, and there were some comments on a chap's article on VG 24/7. It's just like, damn, man, what are these? Just go and play football or something, or go and do something worthwhile and make yourself feel better. You can't be happy. You're not a happy person being like that. There's no good here.
I mean, that's a mystery. The fact that I've seen that this game's getting shit. I mean, even after the demo, which I played and I thought, this can't fail. Two of my friends are buying, they've never played Devil May Cry before, they're going to buy the game off the strength of the demo. And the fact that you still see all this negativity, and it's based around stuff that partially I don't understand, but I thought it was to do with the fact that he'd been a bit. But I love that. He is a dickhead. But then again, you would be a dickhead if you were that guy.
Yeah.
But going back briefly to what you said about music, the game that I used to have a GameCube and an Xbox, and I always I had PlayStation 2 sort of on and off, but the one thing that made me get one was the first battle you get into in the first Devil May Cry, where the music surges. I mean, I'm sure the music, listen to it now, is terrible, but I was just like, wow, this is like music from a scene in a movie, not music from a scene in a game. It felt like something completely new, and that's what led me to buy a PlayStation. And the sequels kind of it was there, but it was kind of seemed like it wasn't quite a part of the package the way it was in the first one. And here, the music does play such a big part, and it's exciting, and it's just, I mean, I don't know why I chipped in again, because I just think it's a tremendous piece of work. And like I said, if you have any interest in this genre at all, you have to try it, because it's a remarkable game, and well done. They've absolutely smashed it.
Well done indeed. Get it in. Seriously. Get it in. Really,
do that. Okay, well, that's us done. Devil May Cry. Get it. But yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening, as always. Check us out. Check all the other things out that we always say, Facebook, Twitter. We're going to start, as we said, putting a lot more work into our YouTube channel, doing some videos and stuff like that. So, have a look, like, subscribe if you like it. It'd be really helping us out. We appreciate it. But yeah, thanks very much for listening. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Cool. Couple of quick shouts from me before we go. If you're searching on YouTube, it's Chet Roivas. So do that. It's at John Denton, it's at Chet Roivas. I also want to give a shout out to my man Super Furry on Twitter, who told me to download a thing called Downcast, which replaces the shithouse iOS proprietary app for podcasts. It costs £49, but it is superb. So a big shout out to that guy. Thank you very much, mate. I would highly recommend that to everyone. And thank you very much for listening. So we'll see you next week. Peace.
Indeed. Nice. See you later.
God only knows what they're doing to these people. All the more reason to blow them to hell. Get moving.
You know, we're living in a society